Hey everybody, it's Dr. Joe's in the house on this Wednesday evening. It's very cold where we are in the Washington, D.C. area. I hope it's nice where you are. And another good session lined up. It's about rent, setting the right rent for your property. And we all know that renting obviously is your income stream. And it's kind of a tricky situation in terms of what rent you should charge. Should you increase it? Should you decrease it? And and so on. So that's what we're going to focus on today. The reason why I did that is because for a lot of people, it's a very, very difficult subject. Sometimes their rent is too low, sometimes the rent is too high. And what's the art? Is it an art? Is it a science? Is it just cross your fingers and hope for the best, or is there a strategy here? And that's what we're going to cover today. And again, as usual, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat box. And we'll get to it in about 20 minutes. And anything to the real estate investing, whether you're buying a deal, whether you're looking to acquire something, you got a landlord problem, tenant problem, any challenges in terms of acquisition, whatever it is, please put them in the chat box, and we'll try to get to it in about 20 minutes from now. And the other thing is, if you want to book a one-on-one with me, where you can do a deep dive into an issue or a challenge that you can sort of leverage on my 30 years worth of experience, then feel free to book a one-on-one with me. And you go to my website, www.joeasimo.com, www.joeasimo.com, and you can book a one-on-one. Okay, great week. And I will be traveling. I'm going to Ghana and at the end of this month for a couple of weeks. And so I'll talk about that a bit later on if we get some time. Anyway, setting the right rent. Market analysis and strategy. I suppose the question is going to be, what's the cost of getting your rent wrong? What is the cost, and what happens if you set the wrong rents? So anyway, determining the optimal rent on a property, it feels like navigating a minefield for some people, as I mentioned earlier on. Sometimes you feel kind of nervous about, should I set it? Should I increase it? Should I reduce it? And am I leaving too much money on the table, or whatever it is? If the price is too high, you run the risk, I suppose, of prolonged vacancies. That will eat into your profits. If your price is too high, it's not competitive. And you'll get fewer applications, and you'll have fewer people to choose from. If the price is too low, on the other hand, you're effectively leaving money on the table while you're kind of devaluating your investment, especially if it's a multifamily, where the value of the property is closely linked to the income stream that the asset generates. So it's kind of a delicate balance. So it's really not just a financial sustainability issue, but it's about positioning your property competitively in the marketplace. So rent setting is more than just choosing a number. It's not just flicking a number or calling a number out the top of your head. It's a strategic decision and influenced by several things, including market conditions, tenant demographics, and the property specific features that your asset has. So for instance, understanding whether your area is experiencing a population influx or a decline, influx or decline can help anticipate demand, and you can adjust accordingly. Similarly, what tenants value most will affect your ability and the rent that you charge. So if you have families who value things like proximity to schools, modern amenities, and outdoor spaces, then obviously that will decide on what kind of price you put it at, and so on. So over time, what I found is that successful investors develop a keen sense of balancing fair market rents with the operational costs, because obviously your operation costs will increase, and so you have to balance that with tenant expectations as well. So it's not just a one-time thing. It's something that you have to evaluate on a regular basis, and that's what we're going to talk about today, because the market fluctuates. It's not static, and you need to be in sync with that. So let's get going. We're broken it down to 6 parts as usual. And the first part is, how do market trends impact your rent pricing? What are the market trends that are going to impact your pricing for your rents? And I suppose the question is, why is it crucial to align your rent with the market trends? Why is it important to be, cognizant or at least consider the market when you set your rents? Should you ignore the market? Or should you consider the market? Okay, that's what the next question is going to be. So, understanding market trends obviously is important. As the saying goes, no man is an island. You have to consider what's going on around you. What's your competition like? What are tenants' expectations in terms of what they want to pay? If the going rate's $1,000 and you're charging $1,500 because your mortgage is too high, well, that's all well and good, but you may not get anyone who's going to rent it for $1,500 if the market rent is $1,000 and so on. So you need to understand what the market's going on. So rent markets obviously are dynamic, and they're influenced by macroeconomic factors such as employment rates, people moving in or out of your area, inflation, and also regional migration patterns. Some areas are experiencing a surge of population, and some areas are experiencing declines. And the market's always changing. So, for example, in a city experiencing an influx of new residents due to things like job opportunities, this will likely increase demand for rentals, allowing you, if you own in those locations, to possibly increase your rent because there's a greater demand. And likewise, if you're in a declining population, people are leaving, then it means that there's probably more supply than there is demand. So you're probably going to end up having to reduce your price in order to stay competitive. So hyperlocal factors such as things like high quality school district, public transportation access, and neighborhood safety. Are you in an area that's safe, or are you in an area that's desirable? That's going to affect also, your ability to charge what kind of rent that you want. So these, those details determine why, two properties in the same zip code or the same town will have, different rents, because one is more desirable than the other. More people want to live in a certain area than others, and so forth. And that's the reason why, when I buy, I'm just talking about myself, when I buy properties, I don't just look at, is it a good deal? Because the numbers may make sense in terms of a profitability standpoint, but at the end of the day, you're going to be renting the property to a tenant. And, so the type of tenants that you are looking to attract, the question becomes, do they want to live there in the area that you have bought your property? And if the answer is yes, then you're good. If the answer is no, then it really doesn't matter that you got a good deal, because you're going to have a hard time attracting quality tenants. I call these folks tier one tenants. And therefore, the location of your asset is very, very important. It's been a few years ago when I first started, I would buy a house, not even thinking about the area. I just thought, hey, the numbers work, let me just buy it. And I'll buy it, and I have a really hard time trying to find tenants because the neighborhood issues, or because people don't want to live there, or whatever it is. And therefore, I had a hard time trying to find quality tenants, because the quality tenants will be attracted to other places, not mine. So, consider those things when you are acquiring your property, and buy strategically, okay? And obviously there are seasonality issues that goes into demand. People tend to want to move in the spring and summertime. So you may want to try to get your leases to end around that time. Therefore, you get a larger pool of people to choose from, because that's when people are looking. If you have no control over that, then obviously, it is what it is. If you got a vacancy in the middle of winter when it's freezing cold outside and people aren't looking, then you're going to have to adjust your strategy, possibly your pricing accordingly, and so on. So what are some of the action items associated with market trends and impact? Well, use online tools like Zillow, Rent-A-Meter to analyze local rental trends. Attend community meetings or subscribe to local news to stay updated about what's going on in the neighborhoods, and also review and adjust your rents seasonally if necessary to align with market trends and demands. Okay, number 2. What role do tenant demographics play in your rent strategy? What role do tenant demographics play in your rent strategy? Okay, I suppose the question is, how can understanding tenant demographics maximize rent potential? How can understanding tenant demographics, tenant types, how can that help you in determining what to charge for rent? So tenant demographics are really the foundations of a successful rent strategy. Knowing who you're going to rent to enables you to align your property features and your pricing with your tenant preferences, i.e., you have an idea who your customer is. As I said before, everything starts off with the customer. What are they looking for? What do they want? What do they not want? And therefore, you can adjust your product and your rent and your pricing strategy accordingly, okay, based on their preferences. So, for example, families with children might prioritize things like good schools, parks, while young professionals, for example, may prioritize things like close to public transportation and nightlife and entertainment and, things like restaurants and things like that. So demographics can influence the type of amenities tenants are willing to pay a premium for. So, for instance, millennials and Gen Z's folks, they may value energy efficient appliances and high-speed internet, okay, while older tenants may prioritize things like accessibility features and things like that. My voucher holders, what I found is that they tend to prioritize, obviously, neighborhood. They tend to prioritize things like access to public transportation and things like, proximity to, decent parks and recreational facilities as well. Okay, so once you have an idea what your customers value, then you want to make sure that you include all that in your in your properties. So so by tailoring your property to meet the preferences of your tenants may allow you to increase your rents because you got stuff which they value, and also allows you to attract possibly long-term tenants because they are happy with what you have, proximity to the property, desirable amenities, etc., and they're more likely to stay a longer period of time. So finally, understanding tenant income levels and spending habits can also help you strike the right balance between affordability and profitability, and so look at income data and to make sure that your rents are in sync with what people can comfortably afford, and therefore reduce the chances of missed payments and also turnover costs. As I said before, I do a lot of housing choice voucher programs. So I try to understand what the local housing authorities are paying for properties in that particular area for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms, and I try to understand what things they pay more for, and I try to incorporate all of that into my properties so I can charge market or even above market rents for my properties. So what are some of the action items associated with tenant demographics? Define your target tenant profile and research their needs. Another thing is survey existing tenants to understand what their priorities are. And also you may want to consider investing in upgrades that appeal to your ideal tenant demographic. So that's number 2. So again, number 1, we focused on what we discussed. How do market trends impact rent pricing? And number 2, we've addressed what role do tenant demographics play in rent strategy. And so number 3, midpoint, is that how do property features influence rents? How do property features, the features of your property, how does that affect the amount of rent that you can charge? Okay, I suppose the question is, what property features justify higher rents? What property features justify higher rents? I'm assuming that you want to maximize the rents for your property. So you want to know is what kind of features allow you to do that. So a property's features significantly can influence its rent value. Modern upgrades, energy efficient appliances, appealing aesthetics often enable landlords like you and I to charge higher rents. For example, a unit with stainless steel appliances, updated bathrooms, hardwood floors, ceiling fans will attract more interest and possibly justify a premium rent compared to an outdated, unrenovated property. You're going to pay more. People will pay more if the property has been updated and upgraded and modern compared to an unrenovated property, outdated property. So there are also location-specific amenities that also play a role in how much you can charge for your rent. So in the urban areas, access to public transit and also things like secure parking may be a priority. And therefore, if you have those features or amenities, then it may allow you to charge more rent for that. In suburban or rural settings, spacious yards, storage options, or even proximity to schools might hold more appeal. So again, investors who understand these preferences can strategically enhance their properties to command competitive rents. So additionally, maintaining curb appeal can be a game changer. I don't know if you walk by houses or properties that's just unkept. It's very difficult to charge premium rents if they just don't have the curb appeal, and so on. So curb appeal does make a difference. A well-landscaped exterior and clean common areas, for example, can not only attract tenants, but also foster a sense of pride and care. Encouraging people to stay longer and taking better care of their individual properties themselves. So, what are the action items associated with property features and how they influence your rent? Invest in high impact upgrades that offer a strong ROI, return on investment. Highlight unique features of your rental listings. And 3, perform regular property maintenance to preserve the appeal and value of your properties. Okay, so we're kind of midpoint through. And again, if you've got some questions, please put them in the chat box. I'll get to them in about 10 minutes. And anything to do with real estate, anything to do with this subject today, anything to do with that you feel like could be of value to, please put them in the chat box. And you can also book a one-on-one with me if you want to, where we can do a deep dive into any situation, any problems, any challenges that you're experiencing pertaining to real estate investing. Then you can book a one-on-one with me. You go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com, and you can set that up. Okay, so let's keep moving. Number 4 is, why is vacancy management? What's the time? 7:21. Why is vacancy management key to setting rents? Vacancy management. So I suppose the question is, how can minimizing vacancies maximize profitability? You know me, I'm all about minimizing turnover and vacancies. They are so expensive. It's probably the most expensive part of this business. If you can't figure a way to minimize vacancies, you are throwing money out of the pocket, out of the door, sorry. And that's the reason why I'm all into minimizing turnover. I'm all into making sure my tenants are happy. And that's the reason why I get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year tenants. In fact, my longest tenant is 28 years last week, 28 years she's been with me. And I got another one, which is 21 years this year. So it does happen, but not by accident. And so minimizing vacancy is really, really important. So, they're expensive. Vacancies can be very, very expensive. Each month a property sits empty represents lost income and increased expenses to you, such as utility payments, marketing costs, and holding costs and things like that. So setting rents at a competitive level is one of the most effective ways to reduce vacancy rates. If it's too high, you're going to have too much vacancies. So but minimizing vacancies is more than just reducing your price. Building strong relationships with the tenants, I think, is important. Offering flexible lease terms, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 6 months, or whatever it is. Flexible lease terms, and also timely maintenance. If something goes wrong, you take the time to fix it. Can all contribute to tenant satisfaction and retention. So it's not just about the price. There are other factors as well. If you want high retention, low turnover, numbers. So, for example, addressing repair requests promptly or adding perks like free Wi-Fi can make tenants more likely to renew their leases and stay. And in fact, successful investors also understand the importance of timing. Marketing vacancies well before a lease ends ensures a seamless transition between tenants. So if you know in advance, you can start marketing in advance and may be able to rent your property very shortly after the new tenant or the old tenant moves out. So offering incentives during slower times, slower seasons, I suppose, like a month of free rent and other, incentives can also help you reduce your, turnover vacancy costs, and also to allow you to fill your properties even faster. So what are some of the action items associated with vacancy management? Market your property 60 to 90 days before the lease expires. Start marketing before the tenant moves out. Build tenant loyalty through responsive communications and incentives. Make it worth their while to want to stay with you and renew their leases. And adjust your rent slightly lower during slower seasons in order to reduce vacancies. Okay, so finally, number five, I've got two more to go. How can operational costs shape rent decisions? The operational costs, how can they affect your decisions? So the question is, why is accounting for costs essential in rent setting? Okay, so operational costs, which is the cost of doing business, whether it be mortgage, principal, taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, whatever it is, they are unavoidable expenses. It is what it is. You're going to incur these expenses, and as a result of that, you have to factor that into the rent pricing. Without a clear understanding of what your costs are, then you as a landlord risk the setting rents either that fail to cover expenses if it's too low, and that puts you at risk because you're not having enough money coming in order to take care of your expenses going out. So you could run into a cash flow problem if you're not careful. So accurate budgeting ensures that rents not only cover operational costs but also provide a buffer for expected expenses like emergency repairs and so on. So you want to have some money left over so you can start building reserves, whether it be 2 or 3 months of reserves set aside, such that if something happens, an emergency or situation occurs, then you have the buffer, you have the resources to actually take care of it, and you don't really have too many financial problems. So experienced investors, often allocate a portion of rental income towards what I call a reserve fund, and which is designed to take care of these unplanned events without you being forced to dip into your personal savings, and so on. So, and then finally, number 6, how do you stay ahead in a fluctuating markets? How do you stay ahead in fluctuating markets? The question is, what strategies help landlords adapt to changing conditions? What strategies can you as a landlord adapt to the changing conditions that you're facing? Well, the rental market obviously is always changing, and it's influenced by economic trends, regulatory changes, and tenant preferences. It's always moving around. Staying ahead requires a regular assessment of your rent strategy to ensure competitiveness. You have to make sure that you are charging competitive rents. Tools like annual market reviews and tenant surveys can provide valuable, really, insights into do you need to make any adjustments or not. Flexibility is also key. Offering shorter leases, including clauses for periodic rent reviews, allows you to adapt quickly to changing markets. And during economic downturns, temporarily freezing rents could be a strategy, or offering discounts could be a good strategy in order to maintain occupancy and goodwill. And finally, staying informed about local and national politics or policies impacting landlords and tenants is also allows you to make sure you're in compliance, while also identifying opportunities to to grow your portfolio. So with that said and done, let's just wrap it up for today. In conclusion, setting the right rent is an art and science, in my opinion, an art and science that requires continuous learning and adaptation. It's something that's always in a state of flux. So by understanding market trends, tenant demographics, and property features and operational costs, landlords like you and I can optimize our rental strategies for sustained success. Okay, so vacancies, while inevitable, can be minimized through proactive management and thoughtful pricing. And for those who want to master these strategies, the rewards go beyond profitability. You'll be building a lasting tenant relationships, maintaining a competitive edge, and you can create a portfolio that thrives in both stable and in uncertain times. So that, my friends, is it for the day. So if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box and I will get to them. Enter your question in the chat box, anything to the real estate. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach me at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. And if you want to book a one-on-one with me, you can go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com, and you can book a one-on-one with me. And for those ones who like to drill further down and get to know and really master tenant screening, finding quality tenants, managing tenant relationships, I do have a course, an on-demand course, and that's designed to help you master and avoid problems as it pertains to landlord and tenant screening and so forth. So with that said, my friend, let's get down to some questions and answers. Okay, let's have a look. Greetings, Datu. Hope you're doing well. I think my internet is kind of a little slow right now. Hope you're doing well, Datu. And in sunny Phoenix, I assume. Vincent Jean Pooch. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Good evening, sir. My daughter is 26. What she should do to invest in property without much money? Where can she afford, and where she should go with to borrow money? Thank you. Okay, let me see. This is let's see if I can answer your question, Vincent. So you got a daughter, about 26 years old, and she wants to invest in real estate, and she doesn't have a whole lot of money. And the question becomes, where can she afford? Well, it depends. I don't know which areas you're interested in, Vincent. If it sounds like you're in France, I don't know if you're French or if you're in France or if you're in the US, but obviously certain areas are more expensive than other areas. So, depending on her budget, she's going to have to, buy in places where, her money goes further. She may not be able to buy in major cities if she's got, a short amount of money. Then the next question becomes, is she looking to live there? Is she looking to just rent it out? She may want to consider a house hack strategy, whereby she will, live in the property. Sometimes if it's a primary residence, you can get better financing. And then she can maybe get some roommates, and where she can get, additional income, which will then she can apply towards her expenses. So house hacking is a strategy that she may want to consider. Depending on where you are, you can get better financing. You can get home owner occupant financing because you're going to be living there, and versus if it's an investment property where you're just doing it for investment. So if she's going to be living at the property, Vincent, she may want to consider a house hack strategy. Maybe you can help her with a down payment, and then she can get some roommates, or even she could rent part of the house out, whether it be a basement or whatever, and therefore that should drive down her housing cost. So where can she borrow money? It depends. If it's a primary residence, most of the big box banks will do it. You can go to some of the local banks, credit unions. They also borrow money for homeowners as well. Hopefully that helps, Vincent. DCC, help us understand your buy strategy. For example, we know you buy a home in a zone on a path to gentrification. But what if you find a fixer-upper in a B or A neighborhood that's already gentrified? That's fine. My thing is I start off with understanding who my ideal tenant is. And I'm looking for a tenant that I call tier one. It's going to take care of the property, pay the rent, no drama, and hopefully stay a long time. You start where you can afford. And so if you can afford to be in the gentrified area, fine. If you can't, then you want to be in an area where hopefully it's on the path of gentrification, which means that over time, it's going to become more desirable than what it is today. Obviously, you don't know the future. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I try to buy in areas where I think my type of tenants want to live there. And also, I look into things like how much does Section 8 pay for rents in that area. Do I need to add more bedrooms if I'm going to do Section 8 so I can get more rent? How many bedrooms do I add? Is the property a 3 bedrooms? Do I need 4? Do I need 5? Do I need 6 bedrooms? Is it possible? How much is it going to cost to do that? So all these things, are important as I, decide whether to go or not. And if I'm going to do a BRRRR strategy where I'm going to buy it and then I'm going to do some renovations, and then ultimately I'm going to refinance. I want to make sure the numbers support that, so I don't have too much property or too much money tied up into the property after it's completed. Hope that helps, DCC. Hector, hey Hector, how you doing? Hi everyone. Realtor licensed in Northern Virginia, here to learn from Dr. Joe. Hey Hector, I know we've been playing social media tags, so I hope you're doing well in Virginia. And as everyone says, Hector is a licensed real estate agent in Northern Virginia. So if you're in the Northern Virginia area looking for a good agent, feel free to reach out to Hector. He's a good guy. Okay. DCC, how would you like to be a property manager? With 30 years, you can't partner with a property management company and train them to manage Section 8 the Dr. Joe way, just like your contractors know your preferences. Yeah, I mean, I manage my own properties. I don't manage usually for other people. I mean, I'm not going to own a management company. I don't want to do that. That's not what I do. But I try, for those people, students of mine, I try to show them what I do. They get a chance to look over my shoulder as we do a transaction, or I help them implement my systems, as you put it, the Dr. Joe way for their properties. In fact, I got reached out to, or Daryl reached out to me today, or yesterday, in fact. And so I'm going to be helping him. He's got a house here in Washington, D.C. So I do provide consulting services for people who want to learn how I do it for their properties. So he bought a house up here in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to help him find quality tenants, which means I'm going to help him market the property, advertise, screen, select, and navigate the whole Section 8 process and get the tenant moved in. So that's what I'm going to be doing to help, Daryl. And I can certainly do that to help people if you feel that's the value to you. And the reason why I do that is because I want you to learn the, quote, Dr. Joe way. And, I just haven't found a management company that does it my way. We just had a lot of snow last week, so I sent text messages to all my tenants Just checking in, make sure they're okay, making sure that if they any problems, give me a call. Christmas about a month ago, I sent Christmas presents to all my tenants. It's just management companies won't do that. But I found that those things are very, very important in order to maintain tenant satisfaction, and hopefully people stay longer. So if you want to learn how to do it Dr. Joe way, let me know. Maybe start off with a one-on-one session, and I can understand your situation, and then hopefully I can help you implement some of the systems which I've developed over the last 35 years. Hello from Houston, just for your information. Okay, hey, DCC from Houston, Texas. What is your method of maintenance when repairs are needed when tenants request ones? Okay, so how do I handle maintenance? Typically, what I do is I have, it's a two-part strategy. I have home warranties with all my properties. And so that usually, there's quite a few home warranty companies out here. I wouldn't tell you which one I use, but I have home warranties on all my properties, and they usually cover the major systems like electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, and appliances and things like that. So if there's a problem as it pertains to some of those systems, then typically the tenant will call me. I would then find out what the nature of the problem is, and then I would contact the home warranty company, and they will then assign it to a licensed, bonded, insured local company who will set up a time to go over to the house and take care of the problem. If it's an item that's not covered by the home warranty, then I have repairmen, handymen that will be able to take care of that. So if it's a home warranty issue, my home warranty company takes care of it. If it's not a home warranty issues or it's outside the policy, then I have maintenance and repair guys who take care of those things. That's how I handle it. Handle repairs, and I keep track of all my repairs, all my properties, and checking with the tenants when everything is completed to make sure that they're happy and satisfied. I found that for quality tenants, it's really, really important to stay on top of your maintenance and repairs. That's a sure way of getting people annoyed, is that if they feel that you're not attentive to any repair issue that they're having in the house. So it's a good question, Hector. Again, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box. I got a few more minutes and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Ty, will the housing authority ever pay lower than the standard set for a particular zip code and bedroom size? For example, comps are 1,500, but housing authority lists 2,000. Will housing authority pay the higher? Yes. Well, at least in the Washington, D.C. area, they will. There are many times where the rent that I'm getting is slightly higher than market, and they will pay it. So you need to understand how they work it in your area, if they will do that, and what you need to do in order to get the higher rent. You may have to provide them with comps, comparables. You may have to provide them with a list of amenities that you have, and therefore you need to understand what amenities do they value and give you extra rent for, and you want to make sure you incorporate those things into your your request. So they will pay higher rent, beyond market. But again, I think it's a jurisdiction by jurisdiction case. So it's really important that you try to develop relationships, Ty, with people at the local housing authority, so that way they can advise you on how they do it there. Okay, Hector, what is your recommendation on increased monthly rent? You go by the market rent at the time renewal, approach, or is more important that the cash flow is given you already? Let's make sure I understand. What is your recommendation on increased monthly rent? Okay, so the strategy, he wants to know what the strategy is for increasing rents, and how do I go by that? Do I go by the time of renewal, or do I go by based on the cash flow? Okay, let me ask him that question. So in Washington, D.C., for example, you can request a rent increase every year after the first year of your what they call HAP contract, housing assistance payments contract. So after a year, you can request a rent increase. And the way we do it here is that you find out how much they'll pay. That's what I do anyway. Find out how much they'll pay for the property, and and then you ask for it. Yeah, that's really it. There's a process. It's done electronically. Some places you have to submit a request. In Washington D.C., they've streamlined the process very, very smoothly, and you indicate the property, the tenant, how much you want to increase the rent by, what the new rent is going to be, and you provide them with supporting documentation about amenities and features of your property, and then you request a rent increase, and hopefully you'll get it. It's pretty straightforward, and you want to try, obviously, the good thing about the housing authorities is that most of the rent increase will be absorbed by the housing authority. Some maybe, it may impact the tenant, but the vast majority is usually absorbed by the housing authority. So it's not really a big deal for a lot of tenants that you increase your rents versus a market renter where they're going to pay all their rent increase. And therefore, you have to be a bit more careful in terms of how much you want to increase the rent by. But for housing authorities, I try to increase it by the maxi. I find out what's the max I can get, and I request that. Okay, I hope that helps. World 407. Hi, Dr. Joe. Okay, same to you, World. I'm thinking fix and flip may be a better strategy for me more than renting, especially because what are your thoughts on this? It depends, each to their own, really. I mean, I've done fix and flips. There are definitely some good points associated with fix and flips. But in the end of the day, I prefer buy and holds. I prefer to own the asset, hold the asset, and get the benefits of owning real estate, whether it be cash flow, appreciation, tax benefits, equity buildup, and things like that. So that's why I do it. But fix and flips are a good strategy. You can get some chunks of cash, but I found that it's not as lucrative as what people think it is. I just haven't had that success level with fix and flips. I know what the gurus tell you. You can make some quote unquote fast cash, but I just haven't had that. You make some money, yes, but after you take care of your expenses, you pay your taxes, your capital gain taxes, and so on. It's not, in my opinion, it's not worth it. There are many times I've flipped a house and I seriously regret doing it because over time the asset increases in value. I spent the money and I have nothing to show for it. So, that's why I hold it. I'll have something to show. And especially if you can attract quality tenants who are going to take care of your property and stay a long time, then it really is a good idea to hold on to assets, in my opinion. Now, that's going to be depending on your market that you're in and the local dynamics. But I'm just speaking for me in the Washington, D.C. area, because we're in a quote unquote appreciating market, which means that prices tend to appreciate in time. Typically, it's always expensive when you buy. It's always expensive. But 5-10 years later, you kick yourself into thinking, why didn't I buy more 5-10 years ago when it was quote unquote cheap? Okay, so anyway, so we're about if you got some questions, please put in the chat box. I think today's been a good session. If you got some more questions, put them in. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up for the day and get myself a little rest. Had a busy day. I'll tell you, I'm going to Ghana, as I said before, at the end of the month. I go for a couple of weeks. Spend some time with my mother. She's over there. And also I'll see my sister and brother. In fact, we're going to have a little family reunion, gathering my brothers and sisters. We haven't really been together with my mother for a few years. So we're going to do that while I travel to Ghana at the end of this month. Looking forward to that one. Book my tickets. we're good to go. I'll go in business class and get a nice flight, get some nice food, go in some comforts. Hey, at some point you need to enjoy the fruits of your labor, as they say. And I think the plans are go to Trinidad later on next month. Maybe going to Cancun, Mexico in March. And I've been invited to go to Guatemala in May. So it's going to be interesting next few months of travel. I love travel. I love it. If you ever get a chance to travel, especially overseas, take it. It's a great opportunity to expand your mind, learn about different cultures, different people, different priorities that people have. And it's just a mind expanding opportunity. So I will be going to Ghana again later on in the year. So maybe if anyone's interested, then maybe you can come to Ghana with me. How about that? And you can see, maybe I'll do that. I'll when I travel, if it makes sense, I'll invite people to come over, and you can have some time, have some fun, and check out. Whenever I go to a country, I always try to immerse myself with the local culture, meet local people, and see how life is. I just enjoy it. It's fascinating. Anyway, which weeks will you travel to Ghana this month? I'll be going the end of this month. I think it's 27th of, I just bought the flight yesterday, 27th of January through February the 11th. So 2 weeks I'll be gone, and late January through mid-February. And as I say, I'll try. Normally, I usually go with United Airlines, but their flights are expensive. When you go business class, it's like $6,000, $6,500 or something. It's crazy. But British Airways was half the price. So, but you have to go through London. So I'll be, going through British Airways through London in their business class trip to Ghana. A group trip to Ghana would be nice, Dr. Joe. I've always wanted to go for a while. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I'll be going back there in the summer. So who knows? Maybe we'll do a Dr. Joe trip. How about that? To different places, and if anyone's interested, we can figure out their logistics. Anyway, my friends, it's now 7:50. I am done for the day. I'm tired. I want to get some rest, hang out, and so on. So I will see you next Wednesday. Same time. Again, if you got some questions, please feel free to book a one-on-one with me where we can do a deep dive. Until then, I'll speak to you guys. Take care. Bye for now.